You can have people liking it on Instagram and stuff, but the reality is over time, you're never going to be remembered. Welcome back, Ranterinos, friends, acquaintances, and haters hating on mates creating. Today we're going to be talking about straps and boots. Someone recently hit me up in the YouTube comments and asked me, hey, man, can you give us a rant about straps versus boots? And what do you think about Finney riding straps in the competition and winning these competitions? And honestly, at first I thought, I don't really want to talk about it. I've spent maybe half my life ranting about straps versus boots and probably being a big part of the reason why people do ride boots still on the world tour. Pretty hard to say that I didn't influence that whole thing along with a few other key players. But I then had a second thought and I thought, you know what? Maybe it is kind of my service to say something about it. People do keep asking me about this, and although I have gone on about this to no end in the past, much of that information is lost. Forums like Kite Scoop have completely disappeared, and any of my opinions that once were laid out there are done. They're completely gone. That site's dead and buried. Anyway, people don't really dig up old stuff, do they? Like we can kind of see from kiteboarding and the way it's all headed that no one really takes any notice of anything that's happened in the past, not even 10 years ago. And as I would have said previously, any of my thoughts on this subject are not personal in the slightest. I don't care who is riding boots, who is riding straps. And for someone to ask me what do I think about Finney riding straps, none of this is directed at Finney. It would be the same if anyone was doing the same thing as Finney. So I don't really want to just focus this on Finney because Finney's not an issue here. Finney's just doing his thing. The World Tour is rewarding Finney for what he's doing. Brands are rewarding him for what he's doing. So you can't blame the kid for what he's doing. There's really two areas that make sense to talk about in regards to straps versus boots to me. One is a competitive side of it. What does it do to competitions and how is it affecting competitions? And two, my personal opinions on it. It doesn't really matter to me if they're winning, they're placing well, they're losing, whatever, because the core of why I think straps competing in a big freestyle competition, like a professional freestyle competition against people in boots, is still the same. There's too many elements to qualify, there's too many elements to quantify and to correctly put points towards. It is clear already that judges are not good at doing this. Even without straps in the situation, they often make what I would assume to be the wrong choice, or I feel is the wrong choice. And the more elements you add in, the more difficult this becomes for a judge. And it's not by a factor of one. It's not simply, oh, we added straps into the situation. That's only one thing to think about, because it's not like that. It's not that simple. All these things are crossed against each other. You're thinking about them in a scale against each other. So this becomes an exponential situation. The more things you add into it, it becomes exponentially harder. It's kind of like the force of wind. Wind goes up from 20 to 40 knots. It's not twice as strong. It's exponentially stronger. And this is really my main reason for thinking that straps is just a bad idea in the judging situation. I think we should be simplifying the judging process. We should be trying to make it as easy as we can for judges to make the right choice and to get the right person on the podium, to get the scores accurate so people are stoked to do competitions. They're stoked to go there. They're stoked to have fun with their friends. When we're making bad choices, it's just making a joke out of it. People aren't excited about it. People stop going to competitions. People don't want to be a pro. And this filters down through the rest of kiteboarding. People don't like kiteboarding. Well, guess what? They're not going to tell someone else to get into it, are they? They're not going to get their friend into it. They're not going to get their son or daughter into it later on. And this is a real problem. We kind of just have people thinking that what other people are doing in the sport doesn't matter, thinking that pros don't matter, comps don't matter if we don't get it right. Well, it kind of does all matter. It's all part of it. Everything is intertwined. So I think that getting competitions right, getting them as fair as possible is a massive thing. And part of that is just eliminating variables. Eliminating straps from the competition in a pro competition is just one simple thing you could do. It's a very easy thing to eliminate. And this gets me on to one of my main arguments that I always made as a judge, and I always tried to push, was that the criteria should be really strict for kite height and for sending your kite to make the judging process fairer for the riders. It was never about how good the sport looks, even though that's a nice advantage of having people not sending their kite, in my opinion, is that rotations start to look better and more defined and more people understand it from other board sport perspectives. But I think that not sending the kite just makes the whole process far, far easier for judges. If you are comparing apples to apples rather than apples to oranges, you're going to have an easier time of it. Eliminating variables is the key. It sucks to think, okay, you need to all be in this one box, but guess what? If you're not all in this one box, it's also fucking impossible to judge. Try and go to a competition and make the right choice as a judge. It starts to lean too much on personal opinion rather than what is the core thing that's going on. The focus should always be on the tricks versus the tricks, and the easiest way to do that is to make a strict set of rules that people will follow, and they will be under same guidelines to perform a trick in a similar manner, whether that be kite at 45, riding in boots, using a similar type of equipment. This just evens the playing field, and when you're trying to compare tricks over the timeline of a competition, or even just tricks from year to year, it makes far more sense and it helps progress the culture. It's kind of like as soon as you're on that different set of equipment, you're just irrelevant. And I kind of feel that's how straps are to freestyle at this point. If you're doing tricks in straps and you want to claim NBDs and you want to be the best in the sport and you want to have fame and be well respected, you can't do it in straps. You just can't. And to think that people will respect you when you're doing it in straps is kind of just silly. They're not going to respect you. They never will. So you can have people backing you up. You can have brands saying it's great. You can have people liking it on Instagram and stuff. But the reality is, over time, you're never going to be remembered. The other end of the equation is my personal opinions on it. And obviously, I don't think that straps in general look good. I think you can ride well in straps. I have seen some riding by certain people in straps that looks fine. But if you were to really focus in on it and really judge it, it doesn't look better. You're not adding anything by riding in straps that you can't do in boots in a freestyle scenario. So why ride in straps? It's just, what's the point? You're not looking better and you're not seeming relevant to other board sports. And if you watch my handle rant, this is kind of a big point for me, a contentious point perhaps, but I think that if you're riding in boots, you're going to appeal better to other board sports, and that is going to help get more people into kiteboarding and help hopefully get more sponsors on board so pro riders can live out their dreams and be a rock star and get paid by some of these other companies that are interested in board sports. And if you're doing freestyle tricks in straps, I just don't think this is appealing to other board sports. I don't think wakeboarders and snowboarders are going to be the slightest bit stoked on that or think it looks good. You got to somewhat appeal to those markets and those people and the people connected to those brands who are connected to other brands in board sports. You've got to appeal somehow, and I think riding boots for freestyle is just a sensible connection there. I hope this has been a good rant. If you want to hear me rant about other things, just hit me up in the comments. Peace.